excited about this plan.
Stuff, everybody's here. Mitch is gonna kick us off with something. Mocha.
Something. All right, cool. Awake. Awake. Dude, things are like happening in my computer. Whoa. So, mocha. It's used for testing. I heard some people talking about testing and testing first and all that stuff. So this would actually be a pretty, oh, I'm hearing an echo, Kevin. It's driving me crazy. Okay. So this should, I don't know, maybe raise some of this discussion. So this isn't really much of a presentation. All I did is one thing that's good about Mocha is it runs, if you are doing something like you're doing full stack JavaScript, it does run in Node. And then you could also run it on your client side, so it'd be kind of the same testing all the way through. So this is kind of the style. Okay, you'll actually use a different library to do the assertions. So it's very modular. This integer should be 1. There's also, you can see this expect, assert, should style.
Is that the same expect library from Jasmine, or is it separate?
It is not, and the syntax is just slightly different.
Just enough to enrage you.
Just enough to make you angry. Boop, 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 boop. I don't know how this is going to play out being huge. But like the syntax in Jasmine is like, expect something to be whatever, 1. And then in, so if you were using the chai, expect it'd be like 2.b. So it's just very slightly different. But let's see, I think for this one we're using the should syntax. So this would be like, you'd get rid of this expect. It actually adds should to the prototype of objects. So it'd be like should equal 1. So that's the syntax I'll be using. So something that does come up a lot if you're testing Node things is like synchronous versus asynchronous code. And I think, from my understanding, I haven't used Jasmine a lot for asynchronous code, but my understanding is it's a little bit more difficult. You kind of set up like the number of assertions you expect to happen, and then at the end, it just kind of waits to see, all right, have those 4 assertions happen? Yes, they have. Okay, then I'm done with the test. Jasmine has this nice little thing where it says done at the end. You just call done to let it know that's the end of my test. Then it just kind of waits for a timeout. It says, okay, well, go do your asynchronous thing. We'll see if it passes. So that's kind of something that's maybe a little bit of an advantage for Mocha. Let's see if there's anything else good here. I really like this pending tests thing. I mean, well, the pending test is kind of not that exciting, but exclusive tests, like when you're coding, a lot of times you just want to focus on one set of tests, and you can just put describe only on your test, and now you're just running just that test. So it helps you kind of focus down. I'm not aware of a feature to do that in Jasmine. You can also do it on these its, just call only. You can also call skip if you just want to skip a test. Here we go. Describe, skip. Uh,
If you only skip,
what happens if you only skip?
do they change? If only skip.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know. I guess we could find out maybe now, today. Yeah, when we after we write the spec, we can look at that. Only and skip. The last thing is these reporters are really fun. It just uses a standard format called TAP, which someone in the Node community made, and it spits out all your test data in a very understandable way for other programs to use it. So you get all these really fun. People just make these really fun reporters. Dot matrix, not that fun. Check marks, maybe kind of fun. Nyan cat. Another option. Landing strip, I like that one. It's a little airplane. Or it doesn't take off, I guess, there, if it fails. So there's all these different, reporters, just because it all comes out in a standard format. It also spit out to JSON, so if you want to make your own fancy reporter, it's easy to do. And I guess that's kind of an overview. This is really cool, this HTML cov feature. It's new. I haven't had a chance to use it, but apparently it tells you what your test coverage is for your JavaScript, which sounds really cool, but I've not used it yet. All right, so I've got an app, and here is the gist. Let's see. We've got people looking for jobs, and they basically, I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of this interface, but let's say you've got 100 tokens to spend on these different areas that are really important to you. So here, maybe you say, okay, I got 10 of these, 10 of these, 20 of these, whatever. And I want to go through here and have this thing change, so it says how many tokens you have left. I want to know if I've gone over and I need to back out, and I want to know if I'm under and I've got some remaining. Also, I think this save button can react, so if I get up to 100 art, you're good to save. Otherwise, you can't save yet. So what I've done is I basically extracted, I just deleted those, this class I had called token policy, and I thought we could take a shot at just rewriting it. One advantage I have is I know the methods it needs to implement for that view to work. So I guess I could start out with that. So what I've got here on my left that's the token policy. It's going to have to implement three things. It's going to have a method called under token limit, and that's going to return true or false to say if you're under your limit. It's going to say, is the policy met? Like, are you exactly at your limit? And then it's going to tell you how many tokens you have remaining. So those are like the three methods it needs to implement. So then on the right, I've got my spec. And I am using Rails on the back end, and so this is the asset pipeline. Also, I am using CoffeeScript, because I've almost forgotten how to write JavaScript at this point. So this is just me actually importing this file over here on the left for the test. So I guess I'm going to give it a go here. So when you're starting out with this, we're talking about test-driven development. One thing I like to do is think about, I guess there's two different ways I do it. Sometimes I think about like what the methods are, and sometimes I think about what the situation is. In this case, because I know the methods, I'm going to talk about the methods like describe. It's under token limit. And then, so I guess I need to decide what this thing needs to do. It's going to, so I guess it should return true when 10 tokens are used. And so the way the syntax works is like you describe a string of what you're expecting, and then you actually pass in a function as a second argument here with no actual arguments in there. So it should return 2 when 10 tokens are used. So the first thing I need to do is use one of these before guys here. So before, what it does is, there's two different kinds of befores too. So before, each one of these situations down here, each one of these little test is going to have this before each run before it. So that way, if you use before each, it'll redo it every time. So there's no way that you're going to get a conflict where when I run this test and this test together, it works, but when I don't run this, and I do run this, it fails or something like that. The other option is before, which will just run it one time before all of them. All right. So describe under token limit, it should return true when 10 tokens are used, and I guess it should return false when 110 tokens are used. And I think it should also return false when you're exactly at your limit. Okay. So that's what I'm thinking for this under token limit method here. So now I'm going to set up this token policy here. We'll say, so I'm making this an instance variable so that I can use it later. Token policy, and actually, so I need, I'm thinking here, and I need some way to pass in how many tokens are used. So let's see. Describe under token limit. I'm wondering where I should put this setup here. I mean, I could say token. I'm thinking maybe I'd rather break it out into, like, you know, describe when you're under 10 tokens, or, you know, describe when you're, I don't know. Does that sound better to anybody else? Or like right now, the way I have it set up is I'm saying, like, I'm going to describe each method, but I could describe a situation like when you have 100 tokens, when you have 110 tokens.
Right, and then figure out. I think the state of the system is probably the better way.
Let's do it. All right, so now we're going to describe, I don't know, when 10 tokens are used. So in that case, we can set up this before each to call token policy set tokens 10. So you have 10 tokens. Okay.
Do you need to have your indentation like that?
I've messed up. There we go. Right? So before each token policy, set tokens 10. And then I guess we're going to expect here token policy dot.
I think that's spelled wrong.
Type it.
Yep. Whoop. So
How'd you do that?
what, X, the reverse?
Yeah,
XP.
XP.
I don't know. It's like a little tiny little
Okay.
stupid Vim trick. Let's see. So now I'm going to say under token limit should return. So when you have 10 tokens, under token should return true. All right. Cool. All right. Do I have any more misspellings? Because I am bad about that. Looks good. This makes sense. So we're going to run it here. So for Rails, I'm using this Konica thing, which apparently isn't running, which is great. Oh, I thought I had this running. Let's see. Rake Konacha serve. So this is a little server that runs, just feeds up this test runner page so that you can run these tests. This SAS Haml error is getting old. All right, so hopefully this does something. Otherwise it'll be boring. Okay, cool. So it says token policy has no method set token, so that's easy. So hopefully, I mean, it feels very slow to code in front of people. But hopefully you can see that it gets like a little faster after you have your spec written and things are thought out, because you get this really fast feedback cycle. You just come back and instantly see how you're doing. So all I need to do is create a method called setTokens, and it's something. And it's complaining, all right, it's not working. Expected this to equal true, so I could just return true, I guess. Oh wait, no, setTokens doesn't do that. It's expecting under token limit to return true. So I think that should make it pass. Nope. Expected blank to equal true.
You're not actually. You token policy dot should dot equal.
Token policy, that's a lie. That's what I want, right? Sweet. So now I've got a better spec. Okay. I guess, yeah, all it does is return true. All right, so let's see. That's one spec down. Hopefully we can get through the rest of these. All right, so my second describe now is going to be when, let's say, 100 tokens are used. I guess I want to say, oops. Token policy set tokens to 100, and we'll say it should return false because you're no longer under your token limit. All right. So let's see how that goes. All right, so it's expected true to equal false. So now I actually have to do something meaningful over here to make this work. So I set tokens, I need to say whether it's true or false. I'm thinking we're going to need to know what the maximum number of tokens are. And I'm just going to hard code that there. At least I know where it is.
That's Ruby.
Is that going to work?
That'll work better.
Sweet. Uh-oh. Contention. We can test it. All right, so set tokens, ask the system. You think that would be, I mean, it wouldn't be a compilation warning.
That's going to be a property on the object.
Yeah, it's going to be a property on the object. You can set a class variable though, and then it won't be accessible as
All I'm going to do is say used tokens equals.
Why wouldn't you want it to be?
Well, it was displayed there in the interface. You have 100 tokens left.
Yeah, that's just like all it is it's just HTML. It starts out with 100.
That's, I guess, yeah. Its use tokens is actually what it would be displaying.
I mean, really, to make it scalable, you need to call a web service to get the max tokens for this instance of the page.
So maybe we should divide this up into several different apps that have a RESTful API between them.
I mean, that's how you go cloud scale.
Okay. That's how we get cloud scale. Okay, use tokens of 100. So I'm going to say if used tokens, I don't know why I did this. This should be num. So if used tokens is less than 100, you're good to go, I think. Yes. Max tokens. Oh. I'm curious about this now. Let's say, so this returns true. We'll start with that. So if use tokens true, else false. Great. That's actually pretty worthless. All right. Under token limit should return false. That was good. So both of them passed. I'm curious about this. So we said that maybe this would work. I don't know. It claims to work. So if you set this back to a property, and then down here, don't use the at, this should break. Yeah, this should break. Yeah.
And yeah.
So I mean,
So that's just creating bar max tokens equals 100, and that's only accessible within that closure.
yeah, that's my understanding. Is that I mean, if we wanted to expose it, we would definitely have to do this.
Yeah. or of a get
Out of
method.
curiosity though, why cap all the things just so you know that this is a constant?
Yeah, just for I mean, it could be anything. Yeah, it could be anything.
Because it could be low
I think for a
variable.
class constant, it's just invisible in that class.
Cap all the things.
And it goes back to the assembly.
All right, everyone's happy now. Okay, let's see. Set tokens 100, so it should be under phone. Okay. This is a different setup that I used than when I actually wrote it myself. So this is interesting. Okay, so describe when like 110 tokens are used, I guess. Then I think we want do that a million times and then a million times a day. Under token limit should return false. Right? Yeah. Okay, for sure. Let me
You're
back.
going to change the line, which is unnumbered.
I thought about bringing my numbers back. Let's see. Okay, which line, Doug? 23. Thank you.
What is null? Is null less than another given number?
Null is not equal to not a number.
I'm just wondering what happens when you don't call get token. When you call it null.
All right, so this under token limit thing looks good, I guess. This is an interesting.
I feel like you have a lot of duplicated code.
Yeah, this is interesting. I'm almost regretting doing this this 3 different setups thing.
Well,
It's interesting because there's 2 different ways to look at it. You could say like, okay, I've got a method, and then there's 3 different situations, or you could say there's 3 different situations. I have 3 methods that apply to those.
But I would lose context. I think those are just like you have your described method, and then you have it returns true under 100 or whatever.
You could also easily set up a context alias for describe.
And you can also just
But-
do that set token right in your if block, right before the.
Do that. You want to separate your code under test from or your preconditions
I-
from your expectations.
Is there a reason you would want to create a context here? I mean, I feel like these describes are, I mean, we might like the word context, but I mean, I think it's satisfying. Yeah, I think it's just semantics.
It's better to favor duplication over, to favor duplication in tests.
Yeah, when I first did this,
Favor duplication and readability.
I put each method in here as a describe, and then under each one, I basically said like, okay, it returns true when it's over 100, or it returns false when it's under whatever.
the reason I suggest that, or the reason I like this way better, is you're more likely to be adding more methods than you are to be creating more states of the system.
Hmm.
So in that case, if you have each of your describes mapping to a state of the system, when you add another method, you know you need to update the test for each describe.
Yeah.
If you're adding another, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I let's.
Three methods and 3 states.
Yeah.
That middle be nice because you said you might want to hide the save button or do different things, and when 10 tokens are used,
Yeah.
you probably want to test the whole state of that page.
Yeah.
Possibly. That'll be part of the.
I mean, my first impression is like it just depends like how you want to think about it. If you want to think about it by method, then yeah. If you want to think about it by state, I don't
I
know.
also think you're missing a case here,
Okay.
which is when you don't set tokens.
Right. So we could describe when no tokens are set. So in this case, I guess I would just create a token policy still, right? I hate this. Well, let's actually just not set it, right? We already have it.
Just call.
Yeah, token. When did I complain? Dot.
Under token limit.
Yeah. So really, this describe almost does nothing. It's like it, and then what do we want it to do?
So you can either set it as a constructor.
I think it should probably. Well, yeah. I mean, we already got a constructor up here though, where it's not. Nothing's been called yet.
Right, but in your class constructor, you could set use token to something, or you could just make it a class, an instance.
Are you talking about in the actual code?
Yeah, so if you haven't used any tokens, it should say that you have used 0 tokens, right?
Well, so you're under the token limit.
I think you are. I feel like you are.
Unless max tokens is 0, in which case you're not.
could raise an error. I mean, that's the other thing.
I
It
would
could
argue for exposing max token now because if you change that, your whole test suite is like
Yep.
warped. So
How's that bad though?
it's,
Code changes, test suite change.
I feel like your test suite should be a little more dynamic to handle it. You know, like it should say not when 10 tokens are used, but when less than the max tokens are used.
I agree with that.
I don't know, man.
Unintended consequences.
I feel like that when you start putting contexts that are
Right.
basically showing when used tokens are less than max tokens, when used tokens are greater than max tokens, when used tokens are equal to max tokens,
That's all one.
that's like getting,
Oh, I see what you don't like.
yeah, that's
You're not
just not
actually
fun.
testing.
Having explicit examples of
So
when my max is this,
Exactly.
these conditions should be true or false.
I think you should test a max of 100, a max in the corner case of max of 0, right? And then I don't know. Do we support negative maxes?
I don't know. Like maybe a middle ground would be like to define the max tokens here in your test. I don't know.
I was gonna say, maybe if you could set your max tokens
Yeah,
in
under
your
token
before,
policy.
then it seems like you would want to do that.
Oh, like the token policy just takes the set of max tokens.
Yeah.
Or max tokens is a property on token policy from the set, right?
Yeah. I mean, for this, I don't want to set the max tokens for my view, just because I feel like that's like a weird place to have. I don't know if I want. I would rather have the token policy know that it's 100 tokens than the view know that it's 100 tokens. So let's just say when there's no token set, it will still return true for under token limit. Under token
Although
limit.
we're talking about mocha, maybe we should
Screw mocha.
figure out how to test for an error.
We could.
Um,
Thing I'm worried about is like if we add any more complexity, like we've really only got through one method. I got 2 more to go. If we want to sort of pay off at the end here. So under token limit returns true. So I guess token policy what under token limit should equal true. Hopefully we get that for free. No, expect false to equal true. If I set this up right. So, yep. Okay, so I don't know. I guess I would put just put a guard in here. I mean, does anyone?
I would
just
initialize use tokens.
Make
to
it set it to
0.
0 on the class.
So like a constructor?
No, you don't even need to do that. Just set use tokens colon 0. Unless you plan on changing it at initialization.
That confuses me. You mean like put it as a
Just as a property.
Yeah.
property just here,
Use tokens.
just like that?
It's like a default.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. I guess my brain goes straight to like, oh, if it's initial, put it in an initializer. But cool. All right. So that passes. So the 2 other ones we got to implement here is token policy is met. So I don't know. I'm thinking about shortcutting this a little bit just because it's a lot of stuff. But let's see. So when there's 100 tokens, I'm thinking. Oh, when there's 10 tokens, then is met should return false because it's really not met. FALSE. Token policy is met should equal false. And it should fail because I don't even have that method. Has no method is met. Over here is met. So I guess it's really just when use tokens equals 100.
Equals
Max
max.
tokens, yeah, I keep doing that. Okay, so hopefully that works. Yes, it does. All right, so is met should return false. And then I'm thinking here, when it's 100, it should return true. Return true. And this should be true also. Now, I'm thinking, I also don't like saying return true in here. I think this is lame. I don't know why I've been doing this. Like, I'd rather say, like, the policy is met or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm just, like, writing my code twice
That should be, describe what they did, right?
or something like that.
Can you do like the RSpec-y token policy dot should be met, but you have is met? So met would be like a, in Ruby met would be like a,
Whoa.
because B is like a prefix for a Boolean method.
So what would the syntax look like? I mean, I don't know.
RSpec you would say at token policy dot should space B
Mm,
met.
I don't think so. Or, like, even
Here's
be...
why you couldn't do that. I'm pretty sure, yeah, you'd have to use something like that. You'd have to define meta in advance. There's no such thing
Right.
as.
And that's like if it weren't, it would be,
I
yeah,
don't
it
know.
would be is met is what it would be here if that were.
Well,
I mean,
I'm
thought-
saying you can't like.
Well, Mocha has a
There's-
B.
I think in RSpec that's going to rely on method name. And that's not a thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could just be underscore, but it has a B method, and I don't know what that matters.
So apparently the be method is an assertion. Or maybe the should. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is possible is the answer, but maybe there's something like it.
Well, you can just do should dot be met or should dot is met. No, that's not.
Would that even work?
You're not operating on.
Oh, yeah.
Are you using chai or are you using mocha?
I'm using chai.
Okay.
It's a assertion thing on top of mocha. So assertion has no policy is met. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, do you know if Jasmine has anything like that? And lastly, when there's 110, I guess it's going to be policies not met. Met should equal false. All right, so we've got these two things here. Okay, so the last one we need to implement is remaining tokens. So this is kind of sad. I wish I'd implemented this first because we could have used that over here. I guess we can refactor. So when there's 10 tokens used, I guess I would expect it. This is another reason that maybe I like the describing the method names. This is a little weird. So it. Yeah. Thank you for that. So token policy, and unfortunately, we have to use this exact one called remaining tokens. So remaining tokens should equal 90. And it fails. So we need to implement this. Remaining tokens. And so this is going to be math, which is hard. Max tokens minus used tokens. Oops. I think that's right. All right, so that's good. And then we just need to work these last few cases. I guess in this case, I mean, this is going to be true all the time. Yeah, this was interesting. So then we're going to expect when you have 100, it should have 0 tokens remaining. And then when you have 110, I guess we're going to expect that. Might as well get rid of these. It should have negative 10 tokens remaining, yeah. Yeah, the other thing,
Forgot you didn't change 90 to 0.
35.
35. Okay. Yeah, so now I'm thinking when we talked about like whether to put these contexts in here, the thing is like some of the contexts are like more important for other methods than others. Like this minus one, it feels like almost overkill to have all these contexts. I've got another test hidden somewhere that's not being run. Okay, so hopefully all this stuff works. Super simple code. This is tons of described code, but yeah, maybe I'll show you the other one that I had before this. It's a little bit smaller. So hopefully this all works now. Let's see. So if I go over to my jobs thing and refresh the page, it's really likely this will not work. It doesn't. I don't know why not. Let's see if I can figure it out real quick. Token applies set used tokens. Oh, I never implemented that.
Well, you did set tokens.
Oh, I call it set tokens. Oh boy. Oh boy. This is where if I were better at Vim, this would be good.
Colon
S.
S.
Colon S
Actually,
Actually,
percent S
yeah, right.
percent S
slash
this way.
used tokens slash what's the other one? Set
Set
used
used
tokens.
It's actually set,
Set
tokens.
tokens.
It's set tokens versus set used tokens.
Set used tokens. Is that it? Slash G. Lamb.
Go over to your other window and then some. Oh, yeah.
All right. Any luck? Any luck? Oh. Well, it's so magical. It's what we work for is just kind of pay off.
Is this like a horrible way to do this?
This is a horrible way to do this. I don't like this. This is somebody else's idea, not mine.
I think it needs more sliders.
I agree. More sliders. There you go. You have -10. You have -50. And now the save button works too, somehow.
Oh yeah, it's an input the number you want to use.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible. All right, and that's that. That's Mocha. That was kind of fun. Maybe I'll commit this really quick just so we can remember what we did here.
What's the test code to tested code lines ratio there?
What's that?
How many lines of test code do you have versus how many lines of code that you're testing?
It's huge here. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, this is like a super trivial example. And yeah, I agree. Let's look at you guys can all critique my actual tests. See CD project.
I would have been tempted to be a little more meta with your examples.
More meta.
I think you started like 2 hours ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, to be fair,
Finished.
full disclosure.
Hey, what are we doing with JavaScript? I don't know.
Git checkout master.
Usually better than that.
Are you saying this was bad? Is that what you're telling me? How can I reload this? Get on my face.
Colon bang.
Colon D bang.
E.
Oh. Nice. So when I did this, doing it by method, I mean, as you can see, like I've done a bunch of assertions in here, which people hate. Like some people hate like when you do multiple assertions within one test.
I think it's okay.
For this, it felt okay to me. I don't know. Some people hate that, but I mean, in this case, it felt like it was simple and it worked. But
I would be more tempted to make those its the context, and then each of those tests their own it, I guess.
yeah, I mean, this was kind of a trivial example, so
Because I think there is the implicit assumption that set use tokens does not have any internal state. Like you can call it repeatedly without affecting, each call is independent. If this had data dependencies elsewhere, I don't know that you could make that assumption.
yeah. And so this is like an extremely functional type class. I mean, it's not like changing some other object. All right, that's it. The pain is over. Kevin, do you want to? We over? All right, cool. If I know the answers, you can ask them.
Do you know if there is a spying framework?
Oh, there's so a spying framework.
Sign in.
Sign in. It's totally awesome.
Gotcha.
I wish I could spy on something right now, but it's going to take too long. It's great. You just like you would say, like when you set it up, you would say something like, okay, so policy is going to like trigger some kind of callback or something when you call something, and you'd be like, I don't know, called equals sign in dot spy.
And you can alias sign in.
You could
set up block and alias sign in a different
and then when you had your it block, undo.
General mocking.
Mock, yeah. I have never found a reason to use a mock in JavaScript, really, because it's so easy to override stuff. Like if I wanted to override policy called, I could just define it here, like policy called equals like
Yeah.
Yeah.
just a method.
Philosophy.
That's one kind of nice thing about JavaScript. But the silence by thing, you'd be like policy that called, I don't know, called once or something.
Yeah, but if instead of policy you had, you only wanted a, I guess a partial mock, I guess is what I'm thinking. Where you're only mocking out.
Yeah, I mean, policy is already set here, right?
That's true.
So you actually have a partial mock. It's really kind of very, it's just like built-in language, like
Yeah.
called is false, I don't know.
Then you're just killing the spot.
Right. Just JavaScript for the win. Yeah.
So you're
So
spying
another-
on the called method of policy?
Well, now I've totally conflated a bunch of things, but this could be a sign on spy, and people do this different ways. This is the way I like to do it. And then down here you could just say like called. This would be better method, called once should equal true. I'm not
And
aware
I
of.
think it's a little more expressive. It's like policy that should be called once. Or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that.
That's nice.
Okay.
It is pretty cool. And again, like the nice thing about this is, it's not all or nothing. Like if you're not a big fan of sign-on, like use something else. Like there's other things out there.
And you can use totally different asserts. Like you could use straight up JavaScript asserts. I mean, if you didn't want to use Java.
Yeah, I've got a project where I do I don't know, like it's like that style where you put assert first, like assert, one is one, I don't know, like that sort of thing.
Did you talk about the iframe thing?
No, I'm not even aware of the technical details of that, Kevin. Why don't you tell me?
I don't really know either. I just read it in GitHub.
You read it in GitHub that
So inspect your reporter.
spec my reporter, if you say so.
So it actually runs. Well, actually, if you had multiple spec files,
Mm-hmm.
it runs each one of those in an iframe. If you go over to, I think it's sources.
Where do I need to go
Actually,
here?
if you just dig into that, there might be an iframe in there.
Dig. I'm really digging
I
here.
think it's actually running the code in an iframe.
Sometimes I see a little thing over here. I don't have any fixture set up, so maybe that's why it's not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the nice part about it is it like isolates your spec code, so you couldn't have specs in it.
Yeah.
So the problem is in something like Jasmine, you use fixtures, and once you have all those specs running on the same page, those fixtures could interfere with
Yeah, so we had an issue the other day where we had some part of our code was like appending something to the body, and we had to like test what was doing. But when you run that test in the Jasmine test runner, it's like appending that to the Jasmine test runner's body, and then like it's not deleting that ever. So it was like appending multiple things, and testing it, and it was like blowing stuff up. And so this like it runs the code in individual iframes, and it like creates a new one each time, so you don't have any.
I guess we're already at time, but I was going to say, like, I don't know. So far, I've not been a big fan of fixtures because it feels like I've already written my template, and then I'm writing my template again. It's like if those two templates ever go out of sync, like that's like a mock that I made that's...
So you should use your template as your fixture.
Right, so you can use your template as your fixture, which is a good way to go. Like, what I usually do is I just, like, pass in a small snippet of JavaScript or HTML. Like, if I was just testing a button or something, and it's a part of a huge view, like I would want to pass in like just the button.
So the relevant pieces of the thing.
Yeah, and then just do that one test and assert on that. I mean, obviously this could get complex. Like if you had a whole bunch of elements you're interacting with, but I don't know. In general, this has felt like it's.
Once you get beyond like a snippet.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, once you get beyond a snippet, I can imagine if you have a whole bunch of things you're interacting with, you'd need it.
Why wouldn't you just use your template?
wait.
testing the subview that has this template. It's a part of a larger template. You don't want to bring in the master template that wraps around it or something.
I mean, Rails gives you something like that, right? You can just call that JST constant and get a template back. So I guess you could do that as well. And then use your actual template.
Well, and you can test in whatever object.
Well, your
Right, because this is a function, you're right.
creating curve should be grabbing it.
I don't know.
Your policy view
So you're
should be
saying that
grabbing
if you're not in Rails, it's a little more complicated to pull in that file and write it in?
Yeah, depending on how you're templating.
If you use required syntaxes for that.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that.
That's essentially what JST is doing. Is providing the same thing on a required JS or something like that.
Remember that the JSTs return function,
Yeah,
not the
I think
actual L,
Yeah, you have to
James
make
called me out on that.
if you want the actual.
or just actually just put parens there with something.
Can it be blank? I don't even know. Might have to be an empty object, I'm not sure.
Well, it depends on the.
Alright, that's it. That's all I got.
Thanks.
Live coding. No problem, Joel. Anytime. Anytime for you. Is that good? Am I done? Anyone else want to try to code something real fast before I unplug?
So Paul asked, would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Definitely 100 duck-sized horses.
There it is.
There you go. There's a lot. That one, can you imagine that duck just like peck you? It's like one good peck. Be finished.
You guys want to see the grunt stuff that he was working on? Or?
Grunt it. Do I need to leave this up? Can you do it from here?
Maybe just talk about it.
It's gonna take me a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. Heckle. You gonna use your computer?
Yeah, but I have to like change.
Besides that, a duck the size of a horse, that's like some mythical monster, right?
Yeah.
Ducks themselves aren't that aggressive, unlike geese,
I
right?
start having to ask the properties of a horse-sized duck, like,
Need one good strike on that horse-sized duck and you're done.
yeah, right? Or like, can it breathe fire now? I mean, this is a mythical creature.
I think it is prime.
Oh, hey, there's a website now.
It's trying to kill
I haven't seen this before.
But then again, the duck-sized horses could really, I mean, it's going to kick you in the shins, and then there's going to be a lot of, I don't know. They could just carry you off.
Get those heart rolls.
So I'm gonna talk a little bit about grunt. This is totally impromptu, so I don't have a lot of like code to share, but we can take a look at it. So has anybody heard of grunt before? Yeah, yeah. Okay. So grunt is there's a lot of things that it can do. I think that its sweet spot in terms of what functionality it can give is kind of best for like front end development process. So if you're writing a lot of like client-side JavaScript, specifically if it's not tied to some back end that does crazy stuff, like if you're using Rails, Rails kind of handles JavaScript compilation and concatenation and all this stuff. But if you just need to write a front-end app that doesn't have a back end, Grunt kind of manages that pipeline of compiling assets, and if you're writing CoffeeScript, compiling CoffeeScript and doing all that stuff, it can really do like a zillion things. So like, let's say you're building a site that's got a bunch of images. You can set up a grunt, what are called grunt tasks, to optimize all of your images every time you want to deploy. So it'll go through and optimize your images. You can set it to like compile less or Sass or concatenate all your CSS together. You can have it do crazy stuff like inject your images into your style sheet as like binary, or not binary, but base64 encoded, so you wouldn't have to ship any images, just have it all packaged in one style sheet. And so this is a list of all the things that it can do. Clean, you can have it like delete old files, you can have it closure compiler, so if you're writing closure, you can have grunt compile all your closure stuff. It'll do CoffeeScript, it'll lint your code automatically, so if you want to say like, hey, every time I save a file, lint my JavaScript and tell me if something's wrong with it, you can have it do that. It can compile templates, so if you want to write like handlebars templates and you want those to compile to functions every time you save one, you can totally have it do that. There's a zillion things. Haml, we got Jade. Yeah. I wonder if mine's on here. Templater, hey, that's mine. I totally didn't put that on there. Hey, that's cool. Yeah, I haven't looked at it in probably 6 months, but yeah. So let's see. How should we talk about this? Actually, I don't really want to show this right now. I'll show it in a second. I just want to talk about how grunt works first from a basic concept. So let's look at a sample grunt thing. So the core of grunt, let me bump this up a little bit, is a thing called a grunt file. And this basically just dictates all the things that you want grunt to do. So in this case, I'm loading some like external things that I want to pull in. Like I've got coffee, which compiles coffee, jam, which does require JS pulling in and compilation and that stuff. Less, which compiles less to CSS. This coffee pot thing does some other coffee stuff. Templater compiles my templates. Then I've got a compressor that takes all of my JavaScript that I produce from these steps and compresses it down into one super small JavaScript file that I can then ship. So basically, the idea here is that I can call grunt, and it's going to go through and do all of these different tasks. And one failed, I don't know why. Java runtime, what the hell is that? So it'll do all these tasks, and in the end, it'll produce something that's ready to ship. And we can take a look at these in a little bit more detail, but so you create this thing called a grunt init config, and I think in the latest version of grunt they've changed some of the syntax, so this might not be exactly perfect. But so I'm defining a task called template, which takes some parameters. Like in this case, I've got 2 things I want to do within this template task. I want to take my home page template, which happens to be this app templates index.jade, and I want to pass in some variables to like inject into the page. I won't get all into the stuff I'm doing. And then I'm going to output it to this destination directory. So when I run that task, and I can totally just run that, grunt, how do I do this template? Yeah, so you can see here it's doing some, so it wrote this index.html file here. Some other tasks I'm doing, I'm minifying my JavaScript with this task, compiling my less, so I point it to my main less file, and I want a destination of all.css. In this case, I'm producing two files. I'm producing an all.css, which is unminified, so I can look at the total compiled output and still be able to read it. And then I've got an all.min.css, which I'm compressing. So I've got two files that I end up with. Yeah.
So you say you end up with those two files each time, or do you call it differently? One time dev and then one time this?
So in this case, it's kind of how how the task is set up. But in this case, I'm calling it totally separately. So each time I'm calling on this source this less file, my main less file, to produce two destinations, one that's compressed and one that's not compressed.
And are tasks generally smart enough to skip work that need to do?
If your task is smart enough to do that, yeah, you could. Some tasks probably do that. In this case, it's doing it every time, just because I don't think it's smart enough. But we've got some coffee, so it's just grabbing all of my coffee files, and it's basically just duplicating them as CincyJS files. Some other stuff. And then another big thing about grunt is it'll actually run a static web server if you want to do that. So I can do grunt. I've got a task set up here called grunt run, and it will boot up in this case it's a node server. So now it's just serving all of my stuff on 8000. Yes. There's other servers that'll ship, like I'm using one called Coffee Pot, which basically just boots up a boots up a node server, and then it will respond to any coffee files and compile them on the fly and send out the JavaScript. So yeah, there's grunt run, which serves stuff, and then you can set up these like global tasks on here. Like what I was doing on that last one was I just ran this grunt run task, which is calling coffee pot watch, which loads up the coffee pot server, which is what you just saw, and then it watches for changes to my file system and reloads this every time a file changes. So, and then I've got this compile task, which runs my templater, coffee, sass, jam, and minifies everything. So, let's see. Oh, to run your tests if you want it to. If you've got some testing framework that you can run from the command line, you can totally have it go out and run those tests and fail. You get like one thing that's really nice is you can hook it up to your build process. So when I run grunt compile, it'll first run the test suite and fail if it hits any errors. So then you're kind of guaranteed not to compile broken code. So yeah, any questions about that? You can also write your own tasks if you have some specific thing you need to do, if you need to like go through your files and delete some or create a new one. It's gotten a lot of traction recently, so it's changing really quickly. But there's pretty good documentation. These are the tasks that ship with grunt. And as you can see, there's minification, QUnits, this server one. And yeah, but then there's a whole bunch of extra or third-party ones you can use.
You mentioned having it do a lint on each save, and I
Mhm.
saw you set up that watcher for your coffee server. If I
Yes.
own the node server,
Yep.
would I just basically tell it to run that and then
Yeah. So you could totally call this thing run and lint. And actually, I think lint is one of the built-in ones. So you could just say lint watch and serve. So you could say serve lint watch, which would run a server and then lint each time your coffee script changes. And you define what files you want to watch here. So yeah, so this just says anytime any of these files in these directories change, rerun that task. Yeah, kind of a whirlwind explanation of all that, but any other questions?
So you link the output of your coffee script.
Yes, which is why I'm not running a lint task. It's one of the benefits of using CoffeeScript. My computer
If
just
your
froze.
lint fails, you're not watching.
Say that again? If your lint fails?
I just the ordering of things. Does the order map like
Yeah, it does.
start the server and then you're gonna lint, and if your lint fails, you're
Yeah, you can have it. There's a few different ways you can do it. You can just have it dump out some errors to the console. You can have it. I think the lint task will actually. You could have it like stop serving if one of your lint fails and like throw up an error page. Or I mean, it's pretty customizable. But yes, what you're saying about order in this like does matter. So first I want a template, then I want to compile my coffee. I want to compile the coffee before I minify everything. So my computer just totally died. That's weird. Means it's over, I guess. I can't type anymore. What's up? Any other questions about that?
Have you ever used Yeoman?
I've installed it and played with it. Mitch has some things to say.
Put it on an existing project, which I feel like maybe if you started from a new project would be good, but like, I ran it and then it didn't work, and like the process of like trying to figure out how to tweak it to make it work, like it was very confusing for me. But
Yeah. Yeah, I played around with it a little bit. It makes a lot of assumptions about your code. It's pretty opinionated in like how you should run and serve your files, which kind of threw me off. But I think you could probably customize it.
like the
Yeah.
testing thing, they wanted you to like the default had you writing all your specs in HTML files, which felt really weird.
Mhm.
I started off with Yeoman because I'm like, oh, nice new shiny toy.
Mhm.
What I really wanted out of it was grunt. I mean, it's running grunt,
Yeah, it's running grunt in the background.
but really, that's all I needed for what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know if you ran it off. That and it updates like every 2 days. It's running an update and something
Yeah.
will break.
This feels very ant-like.
Yes, it is. It's almost an ant clone in JavaScript.
Are people using it in the same sort of? I mean, like I used to always use like cruise control and ant together as a build status kind of
Mhm.
thing. Are people using this in groups, or are you seeing this only used for local sanity checking?
In groups, you mean like on a
Are
CI
there
box,
are there
or?
servers out there running this? I mean, sanity
Yeah.
flights and all that. So
I mean, you could totally spool up.
wiring this together and
Yeah, you could spool up a Heroku instance and like use it as a CI box that would just run your grunt stuff. I was working on a project that did. Yeah, we had our deployment server running grunt before each. So each time we committed, it would run grunt and actually compile stuff, and stop the deploy if any of our stuff failed. Yeah.
start servers and build fails deploy all through
Mhm.
all through cruise control.
Yeah, I mean it's like a CI that just runs Node.
Can you execute arbitrary grunt tasks you can use it like rake, basically?
Yes, it's very similar to Rake. So you could run. Yeah, you can run like grunt min, and it would just minify or whatever. I'd show you, but my computer's decided to stop working. I think that might have been what happened. So, yeah, I think actually, yeah, yeah, cool. Yep. Sorry I couldn't talk a little more.